Welcome to Talking in Stations, the Newsday edition for February 1st. I'm Matterall. Today we're going to cover the M2-XFE IHUB and what the consequences were for the capturing of it by PAPI. We'll consider that a victory. We also have news that Hoover Corporation is merging into habitual euthanasia. Both those groups are in Pandemic Legion. We're hearing that Volta has taken a contract and is fighting somewhere near Curse, and looks like the target is the Fire Coalition. Interesting development. And Sov transfer from Sylvania Super Mercenaries that are Winterco renters. They transferred to Federation of Respect, Honor, Passion Alliance. Okay, we'll have a look at that and more in a moment. Okay. All right. I totally spaced it, but I want to say that Sully is here with us. He does a lot of live coverage for TIS. How are you doing, Sully?
I'm very well.
Gregorian is here as well. How are you doing, Gregorian? Gregorian, are you there? I'll assume he is away. Okay, Sully, you and I, but especially you, did coverage yesterday on the iHub, and that was an M2-XFE. Let's click in on that. Did great work. Why is it hard to cover these things, by the way? Let's just start there. This is an iHub that was up for grabs.
So iHubs, after they come out of reinforce, they spawn conquerable nodes, same as TCUs, but not as prevalent. iHubs are the main focus at the moment for SOV. And because it spawns these nodes, there's no set place for fights to occur. They can occur at any one of them, and they are throughout the constellation. Almost luckily, there was a large number of these nodes were in M2. I believe 4 or 5 of them. So most of the fighting actually congregated there. We had a little bit that we covered in 5-TAC-C, and there was a few nodes, a few jumps away as well. But a large main focus of the fighting kept happening in M2. So we got quite fortunate there with streaming, but the difficulty is each of these nodes, without Tidal, they only really last 15, 20 minutes. And so it's easy enough for the enemies and the defending fleets to move around. However, for getting perspective on them, it's hard to see where they're going at each time. Luckily, in tie-dye, we saw that overall it took 3 or 4 hours for the iHub to be conquered, so it meant that we was able to get cameras in position. The stream was very helpful and gave us some hints as well. It's like, oh, it's this node at the moment. There's a bit of content, so we was able to get positions in place. It was quite fortunate and fortunate to have good viewers as well.
Yeah, you did an excellent job of running around. Again, the viewers helped out. We really appreciate that. They would tell us where these are because they're just about anywhere. And here you are. This is your camera angle, and you can see the red are the Imperium fighters, and then the blue are PAPI fighters. And any observations on the back and forth that was going on?
Both sides seemed to want to commit into the iHub. Both sides were willing to put capitals on the field as well. We saw in Imperium put down multiple faxes to try and Intosis, as well as NC Dot and Peniment Horde. Peniment Horde in this here, I believe, have their carriers on grid, or at least they did at the 5C node. So both sides are willing to commit some capitals. We didn't see any escalation on that, but the fact that they was willing to brawl it out as well over so many nodes. I believe there was 3 or 4 different Imperium fleets and 5 or 6 different PAPI fleets as well, just each going around trying to ensure that the Intostices were as protected as possible.
Yeah. Well, so we did see it swing around, but it was mostly we did swing it back and forth, but it mostly went in PAPI's direction. After a while, they ended up winning the nodes, which meant they captured the iHub and destroyed it. You can see here's various different nodes being pictured. One thing that happened that was very interesting right there at the end, I'll see if I can zoom into once the competition was over, You saw that the IHUB was dropped and there wasn't a fleet around it.
Yeah, so typically when an iHub's put down, it has to be entosised by whoever wants to own the iHub. There are limitations when an iHub can be placed. However, historically speaking, when an iHub is put down, the defending fleet is there, both to prevent the hauler being attacked by enemies. Because if the hauler's carrying it and it gets killed, then that iHub's just going to be in the wreck or be destroyed. It's not going to be anchored in any sense. So it was quite interesting to see that there wasn't any defending fleet on grid with the iHub, and there wasn't for a good few minutes. But then all of a sudden, we saw the four fleets descend and maintain control, and then the entosystem began.
We're looking at that now. So there's the IHUB right in the middle of the screen. You're zoomed in on it here. So you can see there, it's just been put down, and these fleets arrived a little late. So that was a little bit of an interesting drama. As you might have indicated, the iHub, when an iHub is destroyed through the node process, there is room for an iHub to be put down. So anybody could put it down. So normally you want to put it down and cover it, but this one wasn't covered until a few seconds later. But clearly they controlled the grid. This is PAPI. They're in blue. And they came, and you can see they start to entosis it and to take care of it, basically. I thought that was pretty interesting at the very end. A little bit of drama. See, here's a third fleet coming in. All right, so PAPI did win the infrastructure hub, and I don't know if I appreciated how important that victory was for PAPI, because in MTAC2, as you know, there are Titans that are still trapped, possibly over 100. And if the iHub that was already in place that belonged to Imperium had matured 5 more days, or was it 7 more days, it would have been able to host not only jump bridges, but a Sino jammer. And that could have complicated any kind of extraction that PAPI had in mind for the rest of those Titans. What do you think?
Yeah, that would have definitely made rescuing the Titans a bit more difficult.
Yeah, that's good, Gordon.
Yeah, I definitely think we won a big victory, but Gobbins told us not to get overconfident, and he made a really good point there that the Imperium got overconfident after M2 attack, and that led to them making some of the mistakes in recent weeks that allowed us to recover.
Have they made mistakes?
Yeah, I think they have. That they got overconfident and thought that they'd won the war, and then because of that overconfidence, they didn't do enough to stop us from recovering.
Oh, well, I didn't hear too much of that, but let me go back to Sully. What do you think of the iHub victory and the importance of it?
So the real importance I see more than anything, because the iHub has since been reinforced by Imperium as well. So there is going to be another battle in about 24 hours, 23, 24 hours. The main thing really is it reset the clock on the Sinojammer. Imperium is only a few days away from being able to Sinojam this system, which meant that any PAPI attempts to break out these Titans would be a major struggle because of that jammer.
Well, they couldn't do it like they did it a few days ago with dreadnoughts. The dreadnoughts wouldn't be able to get in, so they would have to do it with battleships at best, and they'd have to gate in. So I just don't even know if that would be possible. They might do it with bombers. That's a little easier because you can use a covert Sino to get those in, but it just would have made things really complicated, wouldn't it? And can you imagine if a bridge from 1DQ existed for subcapitals to go right to M2 tech? They wouldn't have to pass through PAPI's staging system of T5Z. Just think it was, they averted a disaster, and I don't think I was tuned in to just how important taking away the infrastructure capability of M2 on the behalf of Imperium was. I think that was pretty important. It also tells you this other thing that I thought was interesting, and that was the reason the breakout happened when it did was because if the breakout, if taking out this iHub had not worked, the breakout couldn't have come after, the Sino bridge or the Sino blocker was up, Sino jammer was up, and the bridge is up. So they really needed to do it all before the iHub reached 35 days. Like, that was critical in case they missed this opportunity or lost this opportunity. But PAPI, I think, ends up with 2 pluses in their column. One is they did get their Titans out, or at least 2/3 of them, it looks like. And they did get the iHub. So things are definitely going their way right now. There's a bit more news on this front too. We'll go to it. You have anything else on the coverage, Sully? Any observations or funny moments?
Trying to think back. It's been I've had a lot of sleep since that fight. I don't really think there was a couple of interesting brawls that went out. There was apparently some unsuccessful Imperium bombing ones, but overall the fighting was fairly even. I believe the final tallies have come in at about 110 billion on PAPI losses to 185 billion of Imperium, which isn't that too dissimilar.
Yeah.
The number of ships, there's a lot more Imperium ships lost than PAPI ships. 601 for PAPI to 1100 for Imperium. So they lost a lot more, but of a lot less value.
Right. There was also an NC dot pilot that was in a Titan that actually jumped instead of bridging. So he got himself into a situation right here in M2. Sorry, in M2-TAC.
The inevitable jump to the bridged, and suddenly a Titan appears on one of the nodes.
Yeah, at one of the nodes. He almost got locked up by, I believe it was a Saber or a Dictor, a Hictor that had come in, but he did get out in time, so he got lucky. Okay, so let's look at a little more information here. If we go back out, we can look at these 2 constellations here. The SPN-Z-TAC-Z, that's the one that has D-TAC-W in it. And right below is the NDU, or is it NJU? Let's take a closer look. Yeah, it's NJU TAC-QV. That's the one that has M2-TAC ZXB in it, 5-TAC-C, a lot of the systems that we've been talking about lately. Well, this constellation looks like, if we take a look at the infrastructure hubs, it looks like PAPI has taken over all the infrastructure hubs in this constellation. And
today we had a few hours of fleet that retook the other iHubs in that constellation.
Yeah, and then the constellation above it that we talked about just a second ago, that one still has 3. It's like split, but DTAC-W looks like it's reinforced, and there will be a contest for that iHub in about a day and a half. So European time zone on Wednesday will be another battle, just like the one that we covered earlier. And it being DTAC-W will be an important battle, we think.
Yeah, DTAC-W is the so obviously we have 1DQ, which is the Imperium subcap staging, T5, which is the PAPI staging, and DTAC-W is the next system beyond that. There is a keep star there, so PAPI's plan, I believe, is still to get control of the iHubs for these keep stars, deploy a Sino jammer, and then be able to attack, reinforce, and ultimately attempt to destroy these keep stars under the Sino jammer.
Yeah. So we'll see what happens. This is kind of the focal point probably for the next 2 weeks, maybe less right now, but it looks like there's a lot of things going on. Remember, one SMAB up here was in the news a couple days ago. Looks like all this stuff up here is reinforced. It belongs to NC dot. This is now PAPI territory, but it looks like it's being contested constantly there. Right here is Helm's Deep, and that is still in Imperium control, although it looks like that's that IHUB there is being contested right at the mouth of the place. But really, I think the emphasis is going to be in this area right here. So look for that over the next few days. Okay, so that's that war update. There's a little more news. We'll just merge this in, and that is that V0LTA has taken a contract. Let's see. Yeah, V0LTA's taken a contract in, they moved to Curse, but they're going to destroy Scalding Pass on a mercenary contract. That is territory that is probably going to be contested and defended by the Fire Coalition. And the news here says that Fire has recalled spare capitals from Delve to defend, but we think that's not completely accurate. Sully, do you have any information on that?
Yeah, so being in Fire, obviously, we've not withdrawn any of our offensive front in the Delve campaign, but there has been asked for pilots to purchase up and gather up spare capitals in Spother and the Toy to help deal with the V0LTA edition. There has been a few fleets already that we have clashed. We have also had some where we were just outformed. So the V0LTA version has stepped up the tempo, but we'll have to see how this kind of fighting on two fronts for Fire Coalition works over the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, we'll try to get more information on V0LTA. I think Fire Coalition is a part of, partnered with Legacy Coalition, and they are involved in this war effort in Delve, as you know. So V0LTA attacking Scalding Pass is on contract is quite, I don't know, I guess it's easy to guess that that probably came from the Imperium. They're the ones that would have enough money to hire people, and this would definitely strategically help them out. If it wasn't the initiative, sorry, if it wasn't the Imperium, either the initiative or Goonswarm, it would be interesting to see who that was that hired them. Another group active in this area is Dreadbomb, but they probably wouldn't hire mercenaries to do the kind of work that they want to do themselves. So that's very interesting.
Yeah, we're not quite sure who did payment, but right now, pretty much now on the doorstep for Fire, we have Initiative, Dreadbomb, and now obviously V0LTA. So it is really going to start stepping up in our defensive and their offensive, both in the region of Curse, Scalding Pass. Great Wildlands, Dreadbomb have been seen operating up there, and obviously we have Bastion and things as well in Esoteria. So there's a lot more going around behind the war front than I've noticed in previous wars. So it'll be interesting to see if there is a plan for them to attempt to withdraw, cause a withdrawal of assets and things from Delve.
Yeah, that strikes me as the right way to prosecute the war is to try to divide PAPI up, try to demotivate certain groups in PAPI. Usually that's targeting by poverty, they call it. You try to destroy as many of the ships of the poorest alliance as you can. If money is not shared among the coalition, alliances that are kind of broke will say, we don't have enough money to continue, we're going to take off and go rat for a while in peace. The other way of doing it is to hire combatants to augment your forces, either in the theater that you're working in or in the backfield, which is this area here. This belongs to essentially Legacy and allies. So if you can create havoc here, if you can make them, that is the allies of Legacy, choose between their home territory and the campaign in Delve, then you're strategically causing them, causing a possibility of them abandoning the Delve effort, which lowers the numbers that you're up against in Delve, which is something that is critical to the Imperium. They need to lower the numbers that are attacking them in Delve. Do you think it'll work, Sully?
I think as war plans go, it's a very tried, tested, and proven method. Whether it works, I have no idea. It all depends on form ups. If Fire Coalition is able to get help from allies, if allies are able to withdraw. Ultimately, if a fleet comes from Delve, then that's one less fleet in Delve. So there I imagine they'll be very strategic about when they create timers, knowing that most of our timers are set at specific times of the day. They will try to poke and prod to see where the weak points are.
Yeah. Oh, I think they're going to just demolish a lot of your stuff because Dread Bomb was having a lot of success against you guys, and Volta are very capable, and they love, I think, doing things in smaller numbers. So they have a lot of room to just shoot a bunch of stuff without having to worry about waiting for other groups to form up and stuff. So good luck, Sully.
Yeah, it's okay. I have spare titans.
Yeah, I think this is something. I think the Imperium should have been doing this from the beginning. I've said that before, but I think the Imperium should have been doing more of this kind of stuff from the beginning.
Yeah, I'm not sure the people were there to hire at the time because everybody had different designs. I think Fraternity in the North has kind of made Volta available to be hired away, like the situation in the North. But I don't know.
It's also like it's hard to tell when's a good point to try and play because obviously initiative in Curse, if they're out, it's the same way that if we have to get a fleet to come up from Delve to deal with a threat at home, if initiative are in Curse, then they're not available to help the Imperium as well. So it's very much a double-edged sword for them. So both the offensive and defensive will be done strategically. If there's a major time in Delve, chances are we may not see a form up in Scalding Pass or Curse. Whereas if there's no timers in Delve, then we may see more of a form up there. It's a very interesting tactic. I think it could have been done sooner, but at the same time, it's hard to count all of the variables that are going on.
Well, it was done sooner. We just don't know if it was successful because Dread Bomb was offered money to attack PAPI, or at least Legacy. They declined, to make that clear, but they were offered contracts early on. I think Revica was hired successfully, and they did do some damage there in the backfield. Those are former Black Legion fighters, very good. We're big fans of them from here. They have since gone and done something else, but there just may not have been the mercenaries available to hire, or they may not have been interested because they had other ambitions. But it's not something that they overlooked. I'm pretty sure of that. It's just, and it's possible that they thought they had a plan that they didn't need to hire too many mercenaries or whatever. But who knows? Not privileged.
Yeah, that I imagine would be one thing of like not burning all of, not using everything they've got, all their tricks at once, because they may not have thought they needed them a few weeks ago, and so that could be a major thing, I think.
Yeah. Okay, so let's just make this clear. Volta has been hired. They're ravaging Scalding Pass. Pretty much the target is Fire Coalition. We don't know who hired, but we do know they are on contract. And so we're assuming it was someone affiliated with the Imperium, if not the Imperium. Yeah, they're staging in Curse, but they're attacking Scalding Pass. So it's there is no territory in Curse. Curse is NPC space, so we really just stage out of Curse. Okay. Hoover Inc. Let's take a look at Hoover Inc. here. Duplicate. And Hoover Inc. is Pandemic Legion. Here they are. A Pandemic Legion Corporation. And actually, I didn't realize this, but they have a lot of history with Test. Their leader was Rick Hoover. And he was part of Pandemic Legion, then he was part of Test, and he had a popular SIG actually in Test, and then he came over to Pandemic Legion with a lot of the people from the SIG, and so they joined Pandemic Legion.
Well, first, before he returned to PL with his corp that has his name on it, he joined Black Legion for a bit, and then he moved over to PL after that era of Black Legion, Elo went inactive again, as he sometimes does.
Often does, yeah. So Black Legion without Elo usually mothballs or spreads out. The guys that work there in that Black Legion group will go to other groups like the Culture or like Pandemic Legion or wherever else. But anyway, Rick Hoover ended up back in Pandemic Legion, but he kind of went inactive and he gave the corp over to someone you may know. He's a streamer, very popular, Avery Lewis. So Avery Lewis took over Hoover.
And Rick eventually ended up in Horde, where he's sometimes active. I don't think I've seen him recently, but he's active sometimes.
So he's doing the casual thing in Horde while he does...
Well, he's in Horde Vanguard, which is one of the more hardcore corporations in Horde.
Yeah.
But I don't know... I don't know the internals of Vanguard, so I don't know how active he is.
Got it. So that's the story, and they merged into to avoid inactivity when they don't have a super active leader. Corporations tend to drift. So instead of drifting too far, a lot of them joined Habitual Euthanasia, which is Elise's corporation. Some of them joined Sniggardly, I think, which is Headliner's corporation. So they've kind of spread out a little bit, but yeah. So there's a merger there. And then our last piece of news is that there's a SOV transfer between Sylvania's super mercenary group, and they are, let's actually bring them up.
They're a Winter Coalition rental alliance.
Have about 600 players, and their territory, if we look at
is Declan.
Oh yeah, look at all these systems that have been lost. Now, lost is just a filler word for no longer theirs. It doesn't mean it was defeated and taken away. If you trade a system, it's also considered lost. And so looks like they took those and transferred them over to the Federation of Respect, Honor, and Passion. I've not heard of them.
Yeah, I haven't been entirely sure who those guys are, but
RHP.
I've been pretty sure that they're some rental group or another, but they've been around in Deckline with whoever controls Deckline for as long as I've been paying attention.
Yeah, I blew that. I don't know them as they are RHP. I think they're... Well, I hope I don't regret saying this. I think they're heavy duty industrialists.
Oh yeah, they definitely are.
And I think they're German, or at least they're led by a German.
Yeah, that group. Sounds about right.
Yeah, and they made a deal because I think they were in Dead Coalition, but made a deal to stay local. Yeah, and so they're local. They're kind of local, and they want to stay there, and so they make diplomatic relationships with whoever the powers are in the area.
They were definitely part of Dead Coalition, and then after that coalition disbanded, I noticed that they had suddenly become blue to me in PanFam. So, but more recently, I'd heard that, although I've only heard this from one person, person who knows a lot of stuff, but only one person, that they've been paying rent to Volta, but I'm not sure if...
We heard that too. I'm not sure if it was true, but we heard with a smirk in their typing that they made arrangements, and arrangements were agreed to by both parties, and Volta was going to let them stay. So I think they were selling them cheap munitions and cheap ships and cheap modules as a part of their tribute to Volta, the new power in the area. So remember that. That was a few months ago. All right. And that's all we have today. Do you guys have anything else?
Well, I noticed an interesting game bug yesterday that I'd never seen before.
What was it?
Well, you know how last year they added the ability to multi-contract fitted ships?
Go on.
Well, yesterday, right before the IHUB the big IHUB timer, I'd been moving some hulls from the Sotio and T5Z to the Keepstar to fit up and put on contract. And then when I tried doing that, that was right around the time when the first alliance pinged and started logging in, and then I think it was Test all logging in caused a lot of tie-dye, so that gave me an error message that my contracts were the multi-contract was attempt was aborted because of the time dilation, which I'd never seen that before.
Yeah, I don't believe that's more of a bug, but I think that's more to prevent unnecessary load, because obviously contracts are handled by the same node as tie-dye. So I think it's more designed to, well, the system's under load, right? Let's make it so it's easy, and they disable little key features like that, I imagine, just to try and reduce the server loads and issues, because obviously it was directly in the system with tie-dye.
Oh, okay. So Billy tells us in chat here that, and I forgot about this, but there's the 8th Moro faction Fortizar to die, leaving only 60 in the game. Wow, those are starting to become rare.
Oh yeah, that was last night. That was Asher led a Baltic fleet defending it against two PAPI fleets, I think PanFam Munins and Legacy Munins.
And the Baltics, they get wiped out?
They ended up docking up and I guess asset safetying those.
Yeah, I heard something about Baltics getting wiped out. I didn't know Asher was fleet commanding that.
Recently, they've been defending a few more structures in period basis than I had seen them doing a bit before. Which I'm not sure what changed, but I saw them defending more period basis structures over the past few days or so.
Yeah, here's the Specialized in the monitor, plus looks like Balgorns, and here they are. These look like Megathrons, which are Baltec ships. Those are Megathron battleships. The fleet concept is called Baltecs, named after the player Baltec. Great guy.
Yeah, the Baltec player is actually now in Horde, and during the original move ops out from Horde home space to Iridia, he brought a Megathron instead of an Eagle for the Eagle Doctrine move up.
I guess he hasn't changed.
Baltic, he has had a video where he was at a fan fest, and I recommend anyone go and watch it, because he is a true out the box thinker, in that he wanted to have a megaphone do everything, and he even had it join Harpy fleets. So he does go into a lot more detail during his talks. I do recommend check out. He's a very fun player, and he when I'm on my Horde character, he's a nice person to chat to as well.
He's just a wonderful guy. Can't say enough good about him. Let's see if we can find a picture of him, because he's quite funny at fan fests. I guess, was it Baltec 1?
Mm-hmm.
No, it's too bad, because he dresses up in a little bit of like like colonial regalia or something. I don't know, but he's just a really nice person, very friendly. To me, he's like a quintessential EVE Online player, Baltec. So I didn't know he was in Horde now. So
yeah, it's his corporation moved from Goons to Pandemic Legion, and then a couple of years ago they no Backcountry.
That's what I meant, Backcountry. Yeah,
they moved from PL to Horde, which I think was partly because
there's a split.
They didn't have enough. Yeah,
Well, there was a
I
rift
think it's partly
between.
because they didn't have enough people around to be allowed to, enough active members to be allowed to stay in PL, kind of like
Yeah.
Hoover and Blackwater USA, which is all, as a corp now in Horde and doing pretty well again.
Right. Yeah, it's the same thing as Smell from NC Dot. They go to Horde to kind of like recuperate or to kind of relax for a while. But before that, Backcountry is very well known in Goon Swarm. So it was during the 2016, as it's known, the Casino War or the World War B. There was a lot of public dispute between Endy and Scion, I believe, who I think were never the best of friends, but it turned into a big row and went all over Reddit. But Backcountry ended up going then over to Pandemic Legion. So that was a big break. But I didn't know that Baltec was in there either. That rings a bell now that I think about it. I don't think Baltec had anything to do with any of that, but it was their leader, I think, Endy was part of that. Okay. So yeah, there were some faction Fortizars destroyed yesterday. Was there more than one, or was there just one?
I was only in the fight for the Moreau.
Maybe there was only one, but Moreaus are, I believe.
Yeah, they're the rarest type.
Yeah. So
They're
for those
coveted.
that aren't aware, the Moreau Fortizars are the original conquerable stations before Citadels were in the game. So these stations were the seeded ones out into 0-0, and when they reached 0 structure hit points, they just turned to the corporation who got the last hit. So there is a finite number of them, less than any of the others. And like I said, there was 60 now alive. I believe I have 2.
You have 2? Oh wow!
I think I've got. I know I've got 1, but I might have a second one somewhere
in the closet somewhere. Wow. There. Well, hold on to that. That's great. And Test would know. Test has conquered Providence and was able to recuperate a ton of stations. Here's the Moreau that was destroyed. Oops, maybe that's a different one. Yeah. There's a Moreau. That's the one I think that was destroyed. I don't see. Here it is, a Dracos. So there was a Dracos destroyed as well.
The Draconis Fortizar was a deployed Fortizar by an alliance.
Okay.
Back when you could put down an egg and fill it up to make it a station.
Yeah. Were these in their original? Is there any way to know if these were there in their original places, or were these picked up in?
Yes. So the rig, if they have a faction Upwell rig, then they have not been moved. The rig is only
standard outpost rig.
Yeah, that rig. It was only created for the transition of existing Fortizars, so existing stations, corporations to Fortizars. Because they had a better bonus as a station than they would have as a Fortizar, the rig kind of branched that gap a bit. So obviously, if they are taken down and moved, they do not have that rig anymore. So if they are destroyed with that rig, then they were original in place.
Good point. So this was in its original place. It was built here as an egg long before Citadels changed their forms. Okay. Good to know. So I don't know if it was a busy day, or I guess last night was a busy day because you got the IHUB plus a couple Fortizars. So I think PAPI had a pretty good day, but it looks like there's some things in the wind here that the Imperium may have put into motion. Who knows? They're definitely doing some tearing up over in legacy areas, and if they've hired Volta, which we assume they have, that's another possible wild card. So we'll see how that goes.
Yeah, Volta, I can't imagine that their contracts would be cheap, so I don't think I can't think of anyone else who'd be able to afford them.
Well, there's nobody else that would hire them because everybody else in the area is wanting to do the PvP themselves, like Dreadbomb and Tickle or whoever else, right? So why would they get hired by any of those guys? It would only get hired by somebody with money that couldn't do a thing there, and it just seems like it's got to be either the Goon Swarm or possibly initiative wants a little more firepower to possibly overcome test, because test, every time, it seems like every time something significant is in danger in legacy space, test shows up and it's defended. But when test doesn't show up, that's usually when the gains are made. So maybe they're looking for an opportunity to overcome test when test shows up. We don't know, but it is interesting. Okay. Thanks, guys. Sully and Gregorian, appreciate you guys giving us some news. And that's all we have on February 1st for EVE Online Newsday. Once again, a wrap up. The M2-XFE IHUB was captured by PAPI. That was a huge victory, considering it negated the Imperium's iron grasp on that system, where some of their Titans are still trapped even after the breakout. Also, DTAC-W will see another IHUB fight for that system in about a day and a half. So EU time zone on Wednesday. V0LTA has deployed to Curse under contract. It looks like it's targeting Scalding Pass, and that belongs to Fire Coalition, so we'll see what happens there. Hoover Corporation merges in with Habitual Euthanasia. Those corporations are in Pandemic Legion. And then SOV transfers to Federation, or RHP, basically, we'll call them RHP, from some of the renters of Winter Coalition. That is actually a very interesting move, considering that Fraternity is having a little bit of trouble up there in the north. So what we thought was going to be a wave of Winter Coalition just destroying everybody in the area, this shows you that some of the renters are going back to the locals rather than the empire of Winter Coalition that's coming through. I think that place is definitely something to watch in the future here. All right, so that's all we have today. We will see you tomorrow on Talking in Stations.